He give us? No. Hi everyone, I'm Father Mario, and this is a Throwback Thursday edition of Weekly Wisdom. We're going to throw it back to this past Sunday when we had in our scriptures, our gospel particularly, one of those great questions that we as Catholics always get, especially from our Protestant brothers and sisters. In the Gospel of Matthew, we heard that we are to call no man your father on earth, for you have one Father who is in heaven. Neither be called masters, for you have one Master, the Christ. He who is the greatest among you shall be your servant. So what about that question? Isn't Jesus saying, call no man on earth your father? Well, you call me Father, so don't you read the scriptures? Or was Jesus telling us that this whole idea or the word Father should be completely erased from our vocabulary? I don't think so. In fact, I know so. Because if you remember, God Himself gave us the Ten Commandments, and we would have to just kind of close our ears to that fourth commandment, that we are to honor our father and our mother. We also would eliminate that day we celebrate in June when we honor our fathers, Father's Day. So we can't quite say that at the heart of it we are absolutely to erase the word Father from our vocabulary. So what does He mean? Well, particularly in this scripture passage that we heard on Sunday, He was addressing the scribes and the Pharisees. And we know that the scribes and Pharisees were the leading religious figures of that time. And so people were following them, and the more popularity they gained, the more it went to their head. And we know that as human beings, sometimes that can happen, right? We kind of get puffed up, we get a little full of ourselves, and then we begin to make perhaps our job or our ministry all about us. And this was precisely what was happening. And so the people of that time would attach themselves to one leader, one Pharisee in particular, and they would start calling him Father. And so he was a religious figure, but so were all the other Pharisees. But they wouldn't even address the other ones. They wouldn't call them Father. They only had this one spiritual guru, and that was the one that they were going to follow. Wouldn't listen to anybody else. And the scribes and Pharisees, they began to really get puffed up about that. And so instead of being a servant to them, to those who were following them, they, in a sense, made those people servants to them. These people were hanging on their every word. And so Jesus tells us, He makes the point that it's not about a word, but it's about how much power, how much authority, or how much stock we place in one person. And do we make that person more important than God, more important than our relationship with Him? Even in the spiritual life, we can do that. Sometimes, we get attached to one priest or another, and so when he moves, we move, and all of that. And that's not good either, because who we come to celebrate, who we come to hear from, is God Himself. Jesus goes on to say that we are to call no one our master or no one our teacher. And so we don't often get that levied against us, that, you call this person, your teacher, and God tells us in the scriptures that we shouldn't do that. Well, no, we have teachers in our world today. We have teachers in our schools. We call them teacher. He also said, call no man a master. And although we don't really call people master today, we do use words like mister and coach and boss, and they all mean the same things. How much more important do we make them than our relationship with the Lord, the one who calls us to follow Him? When we're given these titles, it means that people have been set apart for certain purposes. So a teacher has been set apart to teach, a coach to coach, a father to lead. And particularly, we as Catholics call a priest Father, because the priest has been set apart through his ordination to lead us closer to Christ, to be our spiritual father, to keep his focus on the care of those who have been entrusted to him. So we're not going against the scriptures. You're not going against the scriptures when you call me or any other priest Father. But it's a good reminder to us that we should base all of our relationships upon the universal fatherhood of God Himself. the one who is in control, the one who has the words of everlasting life.